Hello everyone. In the past days, I've released a lot of different ways to farm gold as a paladin. I've tried a lot of things to optimize my routes so I could make even more gold than 350 gold per hour. And today I've found a new way to make 450 raw gold every single hour. I'm going to do this as a retribution paladin, but I guess you can probably also do it as protection. I just feel like this is the fastest way so far for me, and also a lot more enjoyable when you try to speedrun these dungeons. When you do the first big pull, it's important you stack behind a pillar so you can line of sight the different casters. This allows you to stack the monsters a lot easier, and now you can for example use your Holy Wrath to do AoE damage and stun the targets, and also your Consecration. And when I do the first pull, then I also use my Divine Protection to reduce the damage that I take by 50%. Because I play on one of the fresh servers, then I've also been able to get some cheap materials and craft the Swiftness potions. This allowed me to run a lot faster in between the different pools and also save a bit of time. So I probably spent around 5 gold on these potions every single hour, but this also increased the gold that I make with at least 50 gold. At the second big pull, I usually use my Avenging Wrath to make sure I can kill these targets a lot faster. And once you're here, make sure to also pay attention to a chest, because sometimes you might be lucky enough to find one. In fact, there's even a chance that a chest will spawn nearby the first pull that we did. So make sure to keep your eyes out for a chest at that location. The add-on that you see to the right is called Kiwi Farm. This will indicate the amount of gold we can expect to make every single hour, but also what we have made so far. And at the top you can see the session, and this is the time that I've spent in the dungeon so far. One way I make sure that I never go out of mana, or that it's next to impossible for this to happen, is to use my Judgment of Wisdom. And because I also use the glyph of Seal of Command, then I also get 8% of my base mana every time I use a judgment. However, if you still struggle with your mana, then you can always use super mana potions or major mana potions. Right now, these are not that expensive, and it's an easy way to kill these creatures a lot faster. But the moment you have some decent gear, so for example brutal gear, then you will also have a high mana pool, and it shouldn't be a problem. For that specific reason, I'm also using swiftness potions instead. This can for example be seen right here, where I run a lot faster. And by doing this, I can also pull these enemies even faster, stack them together, and that way make even more gold every single hour. When you're at this location, make sure not to face the way that I do right now, because as you see, I get charged and knocked up into an area where I end up evading some of these enemies. So make sure not to do the mistake that I just did, because this will have an impact on the gold that you end up making. When you're at this location, it's also better to get close to a wall so you line of sight the boss and all the casters here. This allows you to stack them together, and now you can do your AoE damage. So far I've made 40 gold in around 5 minutes, and I still haven't looted all the creatures that I just killed. One thing you need to know is that the boss we just killed is a limited boss that will only be available during the pre-patch. This is because it's a Scourge Invasion boss. So during the pre-patch, you will of course make a bit more gold compared to when it's not available. But then again, by the time it's no longer available, we can also level up to 80 and make even more gold with this farm. Alright, so when you do this pull, it's important you hide behind this wall and stack them together. Make sure not to use any cooldowns here, because you will need them in a moment. The reason for this is because the next pull we have to do is a big pull, so you will need your cooldowns to either kill them faster or to reduce your damage taken. An easy way to pull these is for example to use your taunt ability. This has 30 yards range, and if you get an instant cast, you can for example use this on casting Exorcism. Like I mentioned, then this is a big pull where you need some cooldowns, for example your Divine Protection or Avenging Wrath. If you're an engineer, then you can use your grenades and combine it together with Holy Wrath. This allows you to stun the enemies for a long duration, and that way you might be able to save your cooldowns for another fight. But usually I just use my cooldowns right here, so I save a bit of gold on the grenades. I just wanted to show you how it could be done without cooldowns. So far I've made around 62 gold in almost 8 minutes. This is also estimated to be around 460 raw gold every single hour. In my opinion, this is also the most annoying part of the dungeon, because here there will be different spiders that will try to net you. So what I usually do is to try to skip these as much as possible. I've done some calculations, and it seems like it's better to honestly skip a lot of these monsters and just go straight for the bosses. The reason for this is because they will provide even more gold every single hour, as they have a 100% chance to drop a rare item. But of course it's not going to be possible to run straight to each boss without killing anything. And I mean, when you're running there anyway, why not drag some enemies with you? Alright, so when you have killed the Baroness, the door will also open. And in this room there will be 5 enemies that you have to take care of. Once you have done this, you're also ready to move on. When you're running to the next boss location, try to skip these monsters as much as possible. If you accidentally pull them, well then it's important you finish them off before you start the next boss encounter. You can also use invisibility potions to skip some of these a lot easier. So for the next couple of minutes I'm gonna add in some music as I'm just repeating the process. Alright, so once you have got this far, we just have to complete the final part of the dungeon. This is also where we're going to get at least 4 blue items in next to no time. Before I started this dungeon, I accidentally forgot to clean up my inventory, so I'll have to throw away some items that winters for next to nothing. But when you do this pull, you have to make sure you always have a few cooldowns. These enemies will do a high amount of damage, so you will need these cooldowns if you pull a lot of these at the same time. So what you could do in the first pull is to use your Avenging Wrath, because then this will also be ready for when you have to fight the next boss. Then at the second pull, you can for example use your Divine Protection. Remember that these targets are also undead, so you can use your Holy Wrath to avoid a lot of damage by stunning them for 3 seconds. One thing you need to be aware of when you kill these enemies is that the next boss will spawn. But instead of pulling this outside the building, then it's so important you move inside the building. This will allow you to stay in the building when the door closes, else you will have to wait a couple of minutes before this will once again open. You might also see that I'm about to teleport out of the dungeon. That's because I use a macro to invite myself and then I leave the party. So once I've killed the final boss, then it will take next to no seconds before I will be teleported out of the dungeon and ready to reset. Using this trick will have a huge impact on the gold that you end up making every single hour. You can find the macro in the description below this video. And here you can also find my gold guide with a lot of different ways to make gold in Wrath of the Lich King. So by clearing this dungeon, I made 126 gold in around 17 minutes. And now I can just reset the dungeon and I can also spawn a repair bot where I can winter. This will of course require you to be an engineer, but else you can also change your Hearthstone to Light's Hope in Eastern Plaguelands. So by doing the dungeon the way that I did, then you will most likely make around 450 raw gold every single hour. If you would like to see more Wrath of the Lich King gold making videos and other stuff, then make sure to check out my channel or subscribe and hit the notification bell to get notified the next time I post a video. But as always, thank you so much for watching and have an amazing day. Peace.